allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all for coming out again tonight. It's nice to be back in session. We're not on TV and in real life here. If you'd like to make a comment during citizen comment period this evening, to sign up, please sign up as a speaker. The sign up sheet's back in the lobby. We will get
The Q&A session has started. At that point, please press *6. And then you'll hear, if you'd like to speak, please press 1 to be added to the queue. At that time, please press 1. That's an important step. And then at that point, you'll be prompted by the moderator when it's your turn to speak. And you should be able to hear the audio feed for the meeting while you're in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Item number 2 is to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
And the agenda, the removal of item 12 relating to the Economic Development Board appointment, and defer that matter for a future meeting.
Okay. Mr. Short has moved to amend the agenda and remove item 12 and move it to our next meeting. With that change, is there a second on this motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dr. Hofstadter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Linda. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 3 is considered the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? So, Mr. Short moved to make the motion. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Allen made a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Item number 4 is matters from mayor. I've got some things I'll talk about, but I'll address those when we get to the proper point in our meeting here. And item number 5 is matters from city council members. Does anyone have anything they would like to present? Dr. Hofstadter, will you give a report?
You know I do. News continues to be good in terms of our local COVID numbers. They continue to be low, but not zero. And if you've been watching those numbers, you noticed since our last meeting, there have been a couple more deaths related to COVID from citizens of Waynesboro. So it continues to be a real problem. On the good news side, as I understand it today, I've been reading news reports. I have not seen the final press release or anything, but they have approved vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, down to the age of 12. And so now there's going to be a whole other cohort of citizens that will be able to get their vaccine. They are still scheduling vaccines several times a week out at Augusta Health. And it's very easy to get on their website or call and set something up. And my understanding is that some days they're taking walk-ins. I don't want to say that they are every day because I don't want them to be a fact, but I think it's fairly easy to get your vaccine, so I encourage everyone to do so. Talk to your physicians. I know I've been having lots of conversations with patients of mine and addressing questions and encouraging them to get it done. But I think it's going to be the best for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Hofstadter. Anyone else? Okay. Lanny, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. And for those that don't realize, Lana Williams is calling in tonight. She's part of the meeting. And she's calling in for reasons. She had a death in her family, and she's away in Tennessee at a funeral, and she's taking time out to be with family to be with us tonight at the meeting. So thank you, Lana, very much. Item number 6. Item number 6 is to receive a proclamation for May 9th through the 5th as Police Week in Waynesboro, and to join the nation celebrating Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day on May the 12th. We've got a proclamation here. I'll read it off. Proclamation. Whereas Congress and President of the United States have designated May 5th as Peace Officer Memorial Day and Week, which falls as Police Officer Week. And whereas a member of law enforcement for the city of Waynesboro play vital, essential roles in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Waynesboro. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibility of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression and intimidation. And whereas the police department of Waynesboro, Virginia, has grown to be a modern, scientifically based law enforcement agency which increasingly provides a vital service to this community. Now, therefore, I, Bobby Henderson, Mayor, on behalf of the Waynesboro City Council, call upon the citizens of Waynesboro and all the patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as Police Week, an appropriate acknowledgement in which all of our people may honor police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered and dedicated service to this community, and in doing so have established for themselves an inevitable and enduring reputation for preserving rights and security for all citizens. I further call upon the citizens of Waynesboro to observe Saturday, May 15th, 2021 as Peace Officers Memorial Day to honor those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duties. Witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of Waynesboro to be affixed this 10th day of May 2021. Chief Wilhelm will accept the Item number 7 is National EMS Week. Item number 7 is to proclaim May 16th to the 22nd as National Emergency Medical Service Week in the city of Waynesboro. Mr. Hammond.
Yes, sir, I'll make the proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services are vital public services, and whereas a member emergency medical services agencies, the Waynesboro First Aid Crew, the Waynesboro Fire Department, supported by the Waynesboro Police Department and the Waynesboro Department of Emergency Management and EOC, are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rates of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of the emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers, observing Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore the Council of the City of Waynesboro does hereby proclaim May 16th to May 22nd, 2021 as EMS Week in Waynesboro, and calls the attention to the vital work of our EMS system and the career and volunteer professionals with the EMS Strong theme, "This is EMS, caring for our communities," and encourages the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. I, Bobby Henderson, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor.
Gary Price is accepting this proclamation on behalf of all of our EMS workers in the city of Waynesboro. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the recognition of our EMS system. Okay, I'll
Yes, sir.
I know you have a full agenda tonight, but if I may, I have just a few brief remarks. National EMS Week was established in 1974 by then President Gerald Ford to recognize the significant work of our EMS system and those who carry out that work. EMS is a multifaceted system. It's part of healthcare, part of public health, and part of public safety. It's a system of care that includes many players, and several of them are with us tonight from throughout the community. And I'd like to ask them if they would stand over here and join me at the podium. A comprehensive system of care, EMS begins with public education and awareness by all the system partners. We begin 911 education at a young age, teaching our children how to get help in an emergency in our public schools, businesses, and community organizations. We train the public how to do CPR, use an AED, deliver basic first aid such as bleeding control. Publicly accessible AEDs and stop and bleed kits are commonplace in our public buildings, schools, churches, businesses, and retail stores. Therefore, the public is one of the first parts of the system. Early recognition and access to help via the universal number 911 gains access to trained emergency medical dispatchers. The first true first responder, who often provide instructions to callers prior to the arrival of EMS. Known as pre-arrival instructions, or EMD, the dispatcher using medically approved protocols trains callers and provides step-by-step instructions, such as having someone who may be having a heart attack achieve aspirin, controlling major bleeding, use of an AED and CPR, or in some cases even delivering babies. The sooner care is started following a medical or traumatic emergency, the better the chance of survival. Emergency medical dispatchers start this process. First responders, such as police and fire departments, are critical to the EMS system. Often arriving in advance of the ambulance, they provide life-saving care. In Waynesboro, our police officers are trained in CPR, AED, and basic first aid. Because of their patrolling, they are often the closest to an emergency and can begin life-saving care. They've been accredited with many life-saving events. Waynesboro was one of the first localities in Virginia to add AEDs to its police vehicles in 1997. The Waynesboro Fire Department provides basic and advanced life support services and is the first line of backup for a first aid crew. Because of their proximity just across the street, we have a unique agreement and procedures for them to actually take the ambulance and perform the entire response when the crew's resources are deployed. They carry much of the same equipment, such as advanced cardiac monitoring and medication, on the fire engine, and can stabilize the patient prior to the arrival of an ambulance. The Waynesboro First Aid Crew has been and continues to be our primary EMS transport agency and is approved by the city to function in that capacity. They're a 501c3 nonprofit agency, and they're a critical part of the city's public safety system. And they provide a highly cost-effective service for our city. From humble beginnings in 1951, with a donated panel van and operating from one members' homes, to today as a modern, career-based, advanced life support agency, they are crucial to our community's health and well-being. They are operated by a community board of directors and executive director, and have 14 career staff members, a number of part-time staff, and are continue to be supplemented by dedicated volunteers. They have a fleet of 4 advanced life support ambulances and utility vehicles and special equipment. They're managed 24 hours per day with 2 career crews, paramedics and EMTs. Certified and trained in advanced medical skills, procedures, and medication. And they carry advanced cardiac monitoring, airways, medication, and even ventilators for breathing support. Paramedics are known as physician extenders to provide much of the same care that can be delivered in an emergency room. Another critical part of our system represented here tonight are helicopter EMS providers, or HEMS. Air Care 5 is based at Shenandoah Valley Regional Airport. They're a subsidiary of PHI Air Medical, and they use state-of-the-art aircraft, highly skilled pilots, flight nurses, and flight paramedics to bring critical care and rapid transport to the scene for transfer to our regional level and trauma center in UVA. They also do many facility flights from local hospitals, especially hospitals in other parts of the state. UVA Pegasus is also part of the primary medical services of our area. In Waynesboro, we have 11 pre-designated landing zones, and we also use People's Nest Airport, using a fairly unique auto launch program for our emergency medical dispatch protocol. We get access to our acutely injured patients with trauma center faster. Waynesboro was the second area of Virginia about 8 years ago to implement such a program. Augusta Health is represented, including our emergency department. You think about the operating room, the ICU, the cardiac cath lab, and cardiac units that provide the next level of care for our patients. We then leave the hospital alive and functional. Our regional level trauma center in UVA provides tertiary care to our citizens and those critically injured patients. Doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, X-ray technicians, physical and occupational therapists, all working together in ER city. Our statewide EMS system is administered by the Virginia Department of Health Office of Emergency Medical Services, and the State EMS Advisory Board is regulated by the State Board of Health for Virginia. A comprehensive system of regional EMS councils, the Southern Shenandoah EMS Council is with us tonight, serves to coordinate a local and regional system of care with physicians, EMS agencies, EMS providers, hospitals, and other community partners. A brief point of history: the first volunteer rescue squad in the United States was established close by in Roanoke, Virginia in 1928 as the Roanoke Life Saving First Aid Group. They are the foundation for our EMS system. EMS is a comprehensive system of care designed with one thing in mind: saving lives. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you, Mr. Price. This brings us to item number 8.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is to receive a proclamation naming May 16th to the 23rd as Public Works Week in the city of Waynesboro. Mr. Ham.
Yes, sir. This evening, we normally would have a guest from Public Works. They're not able to attend, and I think their enthusiasm for Public Works Week really has been, for their ability to celebrate as a department, has been hampered by the public health emergency. And they do a lot of activities, you may recall, around this time of year aimed at public education and celebrating the various services that the Department of Works, Public Works provide our community. So this evening, I'd just like to take a moment and note that May 16th through May 23rd is National Public Works Week. This year's theme of celebration is Stronger Together, and just prompt our community to think about and reflect on and consider their appreciation for the various essential services of potable drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, road infrastructure, repair, maintenance, and construction, traffic safety and transportation safety services, solid waste and refuse collection, and general support for the municipal operation. Oftentimes, their labor, their trucks, their talent and skill pinch in around election time and other events and services where they can contribute their skill and talent and resource. So as we're celebrating the various weeks around public safety and police, law enforcement, let's remember as well the vital services that our public works teams provide the community throughout the year.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. And those men and women in public work, they really work hard and get very little recognition. I mean, at 3 o'clock in the morning when the water line breaks, it's 10 degrees outside, they're down in the hole trying to make it so you can have a hot shower. So I commend all of those folks in public works. Thank you very much. Item number 9. Item number 9 is second consideration for adopting an online ordinance imposing taxes for the calendar year 2021. Item number 9 is to consider adopting an ordinance imposing taxes for calendar year 2021. At the last meeting, an ordinance was established with real property tax rate of 83 cents, was introduced and seconded. Unless there is comment or discussion, we'll vote on this ordinance now. Any comment or discussion?
I just want to comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
You know, when Ashton gets down to 83 cents, and 90 cents at 2024 million dollars. And didn't do that, not want to do more, not want to do some of the programs that we put in the budget, Mr. Chairman. But I was hoping that we'd be able to use some of the federal money in 4.8 million we're going to get. And math is right, 4.8 minus the 1.4 short would be, we'd still have $3.4 million to do it, to still do extra things above and beyond your 90 cent rate. So to make it clear, I never intended to cut anything or take away. I know everything is important to our city, but I just hated to put that extra burden on our taxpayers and our businesses when I didn't feel like it was necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. All right, so let's take a vote on this. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Aye. Nay. This vote is held, we got 2 in favor, 3 opposed. Mr. Mayor? Yes, sir.
I move to introduce an ordinance imposing taxes for the calendar year 2021 on property and persons at 90 cents per 100 of assessed value for the payment of interest on city debt in support of city government for the maintenance of public schools and for other expenditures necessary for providing for the assessment of persons and property, for the collection of taxes, revenues, assessments, and imposing penalties for the failure to comply with the provisions hereof.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to amend the tax rate from 83 to 90 cents. Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Hostetter. We have a first with Mr. Short, a second with Dr. Hostetter. And is there any discussion on this rate? I would like to have a little discussion on it, and just to clarify, nothing is worse than to have to make a higher tax rate. But when you hear the facts presented by our professional staff, which we have a professional staff that puts together a budget every year and tells council what is needed in that budget and what it will take to run this city for a year. We've reviewed that over and over with our staff for the last 6 months, and they come up with a tax rate of 90 cents that will run the city and get done the things that council said that we would like to get done in this year. Part of that is a compensation for our employees, and another part is to ensure that our schools are properly funded, because reducing the tax rate this year to 83 cents will take away from public schools in 2 years when they're entitled to the extra money that this tax revenue generated. So by reducing the money, you've got to think ahead of a couple of years, and where will the schools be if we take money away from them now? So that's my decision on not voting for the 83 cent and going with a higher tax rate. So this motion will carry over to our May 24th meeting, where it will be read for a second consideration at that meeting. This brings us to item number 10. Item number 10 is consider adopting an ordinance establishing sewer utility rates and charges refuse rates, stormwater equivalent residential unit rates. Council has introduced second and discussed an ordinance. Unless there's any further discussion, we'll take a vote on it tonight. Any discussion on this? All right, so I'll open the floor. All in favor of approving item number 10, utility rates, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-1. Ms. Williams opposed. And then item number 11 is the second reading for the adoption of an ordinance operating budget. Are we going to do? Yeah. Okay. Item number 11 is consider an annual operating budget and appropriation orders for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Yes, sir. Staff's recommendation to the council is that in order to sync up adoption of the tax rate and ensure alignment with the budget, that we would recommend the council postpone consideration of the appropriation ordinance until the next meeting, at which time we confirm the tax rate and we'll ensure that we have an appropriation ordinance that aligns with that.
Vote on what it is.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll carry this over until our next meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
We need a motion to table the 5.4 second.
All right, so can we get a motion to table this to our next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Short. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, then item number 12 has been carried over to our next session. That brings us to item number 13, which is communications, correspondence, and calendar. Mr. Hammond.
I don't have anything.
Okay. That brings us to item number 14, which is citizen comment period. Do we have anyone signed up?
Staff is going to scurry friends. So, Mr. Mayor, we do have a caller on the line. It's not clear to us whether that individual wants to speak. So if that caller would do *6 and would prompt it, press 1 to enter the queue, we'll get you lined up to speak. If it's your pleasure, I'll start calling on the speakers so that it's not done in person.
Yes.
Okay. Robert Horowitz.
You can take your mask off if you would like to. Yeah, that'll help us
Is
here.
that microphone turned on?
Is that mic on?
We'll check.
Project.
Just for the, I think you might.
They're looking at something up there on watching the balcony.
Yes, slide number 11. Number 11
Aye.
Put it out.
Hi, my name is Robert Horowitz. I live at 1216 Frederick Street, Waynesboro, Virginia. Thank you for the ability to speak before you. I am in favor of the 90-cent per $100 assessed value tax. And there's reasons for that. Seniors and others with fixed and lower incomes can get a tax relief and assistance and will not be burdened by the existing tax rate. I understand and support fiscal responsibility. However, lowering taxes during these challenging times is not prudent. Mr. Hamm and his staff did a remarkable job during the pandemic, keeping Waynesboro operations and services running. But just because we see the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel doesn't mean we should take chances on the future. Lowering our tax rate would put us at a risk, and keeping it at 90 cents helps. Taxes are not bad or good. They are the means by which a city can serve its residents. They may be inconvenient, even annoying, but responsible taxation is the revenue of any government. I have spoken to many Waynesboro residents, and most by far agree with me. We like the serve and protect actions of a well-staffed and trained police force, the properly staffed and equipped fire department and rescue squad that is available should emergencies happen, reliable garbage collection and refuse removal, an education system that will train future workers and teach the fundamentals that an informed voting public needs. I like paved streets, traffic lights that work, clean parks where we can visit and our children and grandchildren can play safely, etc., etc. Despite our wishful thinking and hopes to the contrary, expenses and costs for equipment, materials, gasoline, insurance, office supplies, and all those expenses that a government needs to function properly are going up, especially as we move closer to an end of the pandemic. Businesses will seek to make up for lost revenue and will be spurred on by greater demand for goods and services that will contribute to even higher prices. A good middle-class family, the financial soul of America, knows that it must meet its expenses, pay its bills, provide for its family members, and be sure it puts a little aside in case of an emergency, for example, a pandemic. I expect the Waynesboro City family to do the same. We certainly can pay our debts, pay for the upgraded high school, insure city services, and meet our obligations, and make us an attractive place for new folks to move into. Taxes are an expense, but they are and should also be considered an investment in our community. As our aging population moves on, new residents must be attracted to live here. Our already low tax burdens, and until recently, low property prices, helped. But to lower taxes even more would threaten what else appeals to these potential newcomers even more: an attractive, livable, comfortable community with functioning city services, clean, usable parks, good schools, efficient local government. We must invest in our time, in our future, and keep the rate at 90 cents, not go backwards. I'm thankful that you will vote for that next month, the next meeting, and I want you to know that I support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Diana Williams.
My name is Diana Williams. I live at 364 North Avenue, and that's a home I own and pay taxes on. At the last meeting, I heard several residents speak against raising the property taxes, especially on the heels of a pandemic. In response, I wanted to point out a few things. First, I think it is unfair to the council and misleading to fellow residents to label what is being discussed as a raise in taxes. To my knowledge, no one is proposing raising the rate above the current 90 cents. Yes, assessments have gone up. My husband and I saw an increase of about 14%, and as a result, our tax bill will probably increase, but that's not a bad thing. A 2008 brief on Virginia taxes, written by UVA's Well-Lincoln Center, noted the following: most homeowners probably do not like to have their assessed values rise if the increase is expected to result in increased property tax liability, but most do not suffer financial hardship as a result. I'll repeat that. Most do not suffer financial hardship as a result. Indeed, people whose home values are rising are made better off by the increase in their net worth, where people generally desire rising home values because of this and prefer to locate in areas where good growth is likely. These gains in home value are windfall gains. And that's the end of the quote. I am happy that my property value has increased. Everybody should be happy. And while I might not like the increase to my bill, I realize that my tax dollars are an investment in the city of Waynesboro, an investment that contributes to my quality of life by adequately funding the services our city government provides, like education, and allowing it to make much needed improvements that many are long overdue. So I have no issues paying my tax bill, and I'm happy to do it. I recognize that council members are sensitive to residents in need, and I appreciate that. So I propose that the city provides tax relief-based income to those who need it, not just those who are above 65 or disabled. It could take a form of a decreased rate for the individual, extending due dates or providing payment plans, or even providing credits for improvements. This will help to put money back into the pockets of the residents who need it most, and there are many cities around the Commonwealth already taking similar measures. Our city council and manager making the right decisions regarding the real estate taxes over the past few years, and especially at the beginning of the pandemic, is what has allowed us to be in a place where we can start to get ahead. So I want to thank you for making the hard decisions. I know it doesn't increase your popularity, but what is right and what's popular often don't go hand in hand. And I want to implore you to keep moving Waynesboro forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Laura Reagan.
Good evening. My name is Laura Riggin. I'm a resident of Waynesboro,
Okay, it's working that way.
a homeowner and a teacher here at Waynesboro High School. I wrote to you all early this morning regarding the proposed tax rate, cut in the tax rate to 83 cents from 90 cents. This evening, I want to reiterate my support of the current 90-cent tax rate. As I noted to you in my email, as a homeowner, I can appreciate a lower tax rate. However, as a citizen and as a teacher in the city, I would urge you to consider how important it is to maintain the current tax rate. I have recently been involved on an interview team to hire new teachers at Waynesboro High School for next year. I can't emphasize enough how much difference a competitive salary scale makes when we are working to attract people to come and work in Waynesboro, whether we are talking about schools or other areas of city government. I came here tonight alarmed by comments I read from our city manager, Mr. Ham, that to balance the budget with a tax rate of 83 cents would likely decrease the school's budget, as well as eliminate entirely or in part the anticipated 3% wage increase for city employees. I was alarmed at any consideration by council to put Waynesboro in such a position. Rather, to maintain a 90-cent tax rate and put the city in a position to achieve many of the infrastructure and service objectives that City Council has pledged to support. We can see the benefits of completed Phase 1 renovations at WHS, but this council chose a renovation consisting of 3 phases in order to provide a high school that can meet the needs of today's students in terms of safety, science education, technology, and athletic facilities. To maintain a 90-cent tax rate will allow us to move forward with phases 2 and 3, which are still badly needed for catching up to state-of-the-art facilities. To maintain a 90-cent tax rate will allow us to catch up with and maintain the management of infrastructure in other parts of the city as well. We play catch-up so consistently. It has been a difficult year for schools across this country, and this community is no exception. We must continue to fund our school buildings and our school operations adequately. I have to tell you, I dread the thought of the debates and argument that will inevitably happen in the near future if you don't choose to budget for these needs proactively. To maintain a 90-cent tax rate is the common sense way to keep this community vibrant and attractive to those who value or those who are considering Waynesboro as a place to live, learn, or do business. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments.
Brian Edwards.
Brian Edwards, 125 Poland Street. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Ham, and other members of city staff. Over the past few weeks, you've heard much rhetoric coming from other citizens regarding the city manager's recommended fiscal year 22 recommended budget and the 90-cent real estate tax rate needed to fund it. Instead of voting down with more rhetoric, like catchy cliches that go do more with less, or now's not the time, they really have little data or evidence, I ask you to listen to the wisdom of this. Catching up, keeping up, and getting ahead. I hope that sounds familiar because it is the theme of the City of Waynesboro's 2018 comprehensive plan adopted by this body. And most of my quotes come directly from this document approved by this body. Described as a decision-making guide to help the community successfully navigate the challenge Waynesboro faces, it was a bold expression by the council to make it a blueprint for Waynesboro's successful future. And what is ironic and confounding to me is that it was compiled by many people in this room tonight whose aim it is to abandon it just 3 short years later. Is the pandemic blamed for this shift in attitude? How have things changed since 1918? Well, here's one way they've changed. From page 8 of the comprehensive plan. The confidence of the local real estate market has weakened relative to nearby localities within the valley. Lower housing costs reflect that Waynesboro is less and less solidly middle-class income it used to be, end quote. So that's changed dramatically. People want to move into Waynesboro and pay much higher taxes for homes, pay higher prices for homes, here propelling the increase in the real estate tax assessments. I, for one, am extremely willing to pay my share in the extra real estate tax of my home that I have owned for the past 19 years. And to call Waynesboro home, and I feel confident that the city council will put that money to good use if it follows its own comprehensive plan. I fully buy into this statement in the comprehensive plan. Quote, in short, the community will have to badly want Waynesboro to be able to compete and demonstrate a willingness to pay for it, end quote. With the 90-cent tax rate, you, as our city leaders, will be able to use revenue to address the 5 project areas spelled out in the comprehensive plan. Education, as Waynesboro High School, as a parent of Waynesboro High School student and past graduates, and a current Waynesboro Public Schools teacher, I agree that funding is needed, quote, to perform necessary school repairs, to have the best in the valley compensation package for educators, and pre-K programs. Good public education is essential to economic development. Economics, as a chairperson of the Waynesboro Area Refuge Ministry, I agree that funding is needed for Economic Development Authority to bring in more businesses so that we can be on, quote, solid economic footing, end quote, bringing in jobs in terms of dollars and reducing our homeless and low-income population. 3, quality of life. As a retired police officer, I agree that funding is needed so that Waynesboro can have the, quote, best in the valley first responder compensation package, end quote. Otherwise, Waynesboro will continue to be a training ground for other localities. infrastructures in neighborhoods. We need strong roads. We need to support our public works department. We need to support the work of the building and zoning committee to step up code enforcement of blighted properties and improve the overall look and individuality of our program, of our neighborhoods.
Mr. Edwards,
I'm done.
you're blinking red there, sir.
I'm done.
Right.
In closing, I support it because by doing so and improving the 90% tax rate, Waynesboro can catch up, keep up, and get it.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thanks.
Dan Sullivan.
Sir, you can take your mask off if you like. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to cut to the chase, and I think Mr. Hampton knows I will do that. The proposed amendment to reduce the property tax rate was at best pandering to a small, uninformed, local minority of the constituency, and at worst, fiscal malfeasance. The proposed budget has been developed over months to suddenly make an arbitrary and capricious proposal to reduce revenues without presenting an alternative budget is disingenuous at best, and unless you can offer an alternative and reliable long-term source of revenue, it shouldn't even be considered. We've heard none of that or acceptance of any responsibility for that. We witnessed a parade of testimony last council meeting that constituted fantasy. One of the speakers made an appeal to the real-world solutions and made the preposterous claim that privatizing government functions would yield tens of billions of dollars for the treasury. You know, when you only look for the information that supports your position, your research is going to find it. Let's address the idea that we can privatize trash collection and make a fund. That's a broken record. First, it's not like that hasn't been proposed here before. A much more conservative city council considered that in the past and turned it down. And in 2018, a definitely more conservative municipality, Stillwater, Oklahoma, tested that proposal with an actual free market request for proposals that allowed the city waste management department in the competitive bid process. And guess who won? Hands down, the city department of waste management. The tax burden on Waynesboro property owners is 1/2 of the national average. The average difference in increased tax yield on the average homeowner in Waynesboro included in the proposed budget is about $160 a year. That's giving up 30 visits to Starbucks or 2 family nights to a restaurant per year. I'm an economist, and I look at opportunity curves, and one of the speakers last week claimed that with the value increase of his property, the real reason for his tax bill rising, he'd have to deny his children some activities or make lower contributions to his church. Well, that tells me what's above and below the line for that individual. Those are the opportunities he would forego. Starbucks, beer, Netflix, and popping caps at the firing range rank above his children's activities in his church. And while we're at it, remember that the entire budget is not discretionary. So parts that are going to suffer the greatest are ones that are the most valuable, like schools, the police department, the fire department, maintenance, snow plowing, and the likes. Children's activities, the schools would have to cut the arts, sports, band, and extracurricular activities. The net effect is that more money will be coming out of your pocket for your children's activities, but that's right, we've already heard that children's activities and church donations fall below the line. Laughably, one of the speakers last week threatened to turn out council members who voted for the proposed budget. The results from Saturday's unassembled caucus show the strength of that threat. 0.6% of the city of Waynesboro participated in the GOP's event, limp and weak teeth. The real beneficiaries of the proposed reduction in the tax rate are the biggest users of our resources. The Cokes, Walmart, Amazon, all the huge corporations that will distribute those revenues to investors far from Waynesboro. We'll shift the cost of supporting the corporations to the homeowners who will make up for the deficit caused by expenses for which we will no longer receive appropriate remuneration. That is corporate communism. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Sharon Van Main.
Hello, I'm Sharon Van Name. I live at 2116 Bellevue Road here in Waynesboro. I've been a homeowner in Waynesboro for 31 years, and it's been a good place to live, a good place to raise my children and my grandchildren. But the things that make a city attractive are not just low taxes. The things that are important to me are having an infrastructure that's well maintained with good city services. These are the kinds of things that you don't notice unless they don't work. They're the kinds of things that make our everyday life livable and enjoyable. The second thing that's important to me is a high-quality school system. My children went to school here, my grandchildren do, and I know that they need to be prepared to face the kinds of problems that we can barely even imagine. It's important that we have children prepared to lead our future. Lastly, it's important to me, from a practical and ethical viewpoint, that we have a compensation scheme that allows us to attract and retain good quality employees and to pay them fairly and justly for the services that they provide for us. For all these reasons, I'm really pleased that you defeated this reduction in the tax rate tonight, and I look forward to you passing the 9% rate next month. As a long-term homeowner, and I'm willing to admit one of those senior citizens that are frequently cited, I am proud and pleased to be able to support my city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much.
Jeff Fife.
Howdy, happy people. Jeff White, 1639 Chad Road, as well as other properties here in Waynesboro. Mayor Henderson, members of council, just want to wish you guys well, good luck, and kudos for killing the 83% tax rate today. I am in full support of maintaining our tax rate at 90 cents. You know, as I look at the agenda that was handed out today, and I see us doing a proclamation and supporting police, doing a proclamation supporting EMS, a proclamation supporting National Public Works. We truly want to support these services, these agencies. In Waynesboro, we can do more in our next meeting than just put a piece of paper or a proclamation. We can fund them. We can fund them to their appropriate levels. And maintaining that tax rate at 90%, at 90 cents, does that. I'm in full support of that. I appreciate what you guys do. I love this city and some of the great things that are happening right now, the momentum that we're starting to build, the things that we're doing, we can't flush now with penny pinching obstructionism. It's time to move Waynesboro forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Danny Ledford.
Good evening, council. My name is David Ledford, I live on Wayne Avenue. I'd like to start off with, a few minutes ago, a gentleman got up and started pontificating that I'm one of my friends and making false accusations. Sir, you do not know my friend? Okay, fine. There will be no false accusations made. Him talking about buying beer instead of covering his kids' funds. That's ridiculous. I'm here because I wanted the 83%, because what I've seen with this council over the years is you guys don't utilize our tax money in the appropriate manner. Mike, when we talked last time, you mentioned, and there was a slide that you showed 12 additional police officers were not funded, correct? To me, it's an abomination to stand here and give somebody a plaque when we need officers. One of my good friends was killed, murdered by a drunk driver. We don't have enough cops as it is, but in that new budget, there's nothing more for the police officers. I keep talking about Wayne Avenue and the speeding. And 2 people have been hit on bikes so far. Well, one late last year, one this year. If we're going to start raising taxes, which I'm opposed to, we need to spend on stuff that's going to change the safety in this city. And to not have anything in there in regards to the police officers, and then sit and give them a plaque, that's just false. I mean, we might as well just get boots on because it's going to get deep in here. You know, we're not doing anything to help what this city really needs. We talk about education, clearly we want education, but we also need safety. And this budget, you guys aren't changing it. So what I want to know is what you're going to do with this extra money to make our city better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kurt Lilly.
Good evening, I'm Kurt Lilly, I live at 218 Skyland. Outside in the lobby of this meeting was a sign up to speak. And everybody signed up to speak about taxes. I think it's shameful that you voted on raising taxes when you knew several people wanted to speak on this and you didn't even hear them. I want viewers and listeners to understand that you've laid the groundwork not only to raise our taxes, but to raise our utility rates too. Gasoline is $1 a gallon higher than it was a year or so ago. People are hurting from the effects of COVID. This tax increase will raise rents in the city because owners will pass those costs on to their renters. You're only hurting people that are already hurting, people that need the help the most. Somebody mentioned property taxes being half the national average. He didn't mention that our wages are about half the national average too. I don't know what else to say. I'm not asking for more, I'm not asking for better, I'm not asking for infrastructure, I'm just asking to hold the line of taxes. I'm very disappointed.
Thank you, sir.
So that concludes the list of individuals who signed up to speak in person. We do have a caller, Mr. Adolph Young. Mr. Young, if you're on the line, please go ahead and speak. Young, what do you? That concludes the speakers.
All right, thank you everyone for your comments tonight, and brings us to our next order of business is item number 16. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Thank you, Mr. Allen. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Dr. Hofstadter. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This motion carries.